Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Scott Jennings does not hold back, and he makes this entire CNN panel chock full of Democrats completely rethink their entire careers. Let's dive in.
But I think there's a lot of problems when you have one-party state legislatures that are increasingly run by one extreme that cause political backlash. That's one of the reasons we saw, a drift towards Trump even in California. That said, this trying to make, calling the president-elect calling the governor of a state that's on fire, Gavin Newsom, and railing against him politically and all that stuff is not. I mean, let's call that what it is too. That's
the Speaker of the House, I have to say, has said today that he would like to condition aid to California.
Yes.
Condition aid to California. Of course, you are okay with conditioning aid.
I said it the night that this started. I said on your show, there ought to be conditions on aid because
so the
obviously
next time Florida or Louisiana is dealing with a
that's why I
hurricane,
mentioned Katrina.
You want that aid to be conditional upon Washington dictating policy decisions in those states?
I want it to be conditional on knowing whether or not the state of California, in this case, is going to enact local policy decisions on forest management, on water resources management,
well, let me ask
so that it
what's
doesn't happen again.
What's wrong with that?
Let me ask that. Okay. If the Democratic-controlled House decided, you know what, in Florida, they really should not be building those houses on the water. Climate change is happening. That aid that we give you is going to be conditional upon you preventing the building of anything along in all those areas that are prone to hurricanes. You would be okay with that?
If you could pass that through the United States Congress, more power to you.
I'm just asking.
Hold on. I'm the lawyer here. We have rules like that all the time. You have to build Coney Island in Brooklyn. If you're going to build something, it's got to be built in a certain way. So you're going to get the money. It's got to be built. So it's
Arthur, thank you. So Arthur is pointing out that is very much something that Congress could do. Would you be okay with that?
I am not for a blank check to a state that has clearly failed and doesn't know how to manage fires. I would like to see a partnership between the state and Washington so that whatever money is being spent. Look, I don't live in California.
So now we're talking about a partnership.
But if you want us to send you billions upon billions of dollars, we need to have some assurances that you're not going to flush it the way you maybe have flushed it.
People don't have homes, this is
the problem. This is why I raised Katrina at the top.
You're comparing the wildfires in Los Angeles to Katrina? That is unironically a very smart comparison, buddy. And you're saying that, well, maybe Congress shouldn't have any strings attached to when they give aid to California to cover for these fires. Okay. Let's actually compare this, shall we? In 2004, PBS had a special where they quite literally went to New Orleans, they looked at the levees, and they realized, oh, these structures are not as stable as we thought. If a Category 3 or higher hurricane hits us dead center, like the eye wall hits New Orleans, these levees on Lake Pontchartrain are going to break, okay? When the levee breaks, honey, you gotta move, all right? That's exactly what happened within 1 year of that special. And then you had people warning California, hey, y'all keep on having a wildfire problem. If you don't clean up your underbrush, if you don't dig up the dead stuff or have some prescribed burns, you're going to have a huge problem. Then they also had the brilliant idea of passing legislation that would make it almost impossible to have insurance in certain areas. Remember how everyone's getting really, really mad about State Farm? Like a good neighbor, State Farm ain't there. They left that region. They left the Los Angeles region within weeks of this wildfire because they looked at the risks and said, this is so bad with the policy that you just enacted, with the potential for wildfire. It's so bad that we can't cover you. Okay? When insurance is saying, hey, we actually can't cover your costs, you need to do something different or we're out, you need to listen. That's sort of the wall of the dam leaking. That's your body telling you there's a problem. You know how you get a fever when you might get infected? That's your body telling you there's an infection and it's doing its best to fight it off. And this is sort of the human way of telling you, there's a problem and you really need to fix this. But Californians refused to listen. And there's a bigger reason for that, but also if you really want to compare this back to Hurricane Katrina, not only was there specific warning saying, hey, these levees are going to break and thousands of people might get caught up in this catastrophe. Not only was that the issue, remember, the South until about 2006 was very, very Democrat. When I was a intern in Frankfort, Kentucky, the House of Representatives was still controlled by a slim majority of about 3 Democrats. And there was even a rules fight, but no one cares about a rules fight. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is the South was still being governed by Democrats. All right, here in Georgia, Roy Barnes was governor until what, 2006, I believe? Maybe it was just 2002. I think it was just 2002. But Roy Barnes was a former Dixiecrat. He was a conservative Democrat, but still very Democrat post FDR. And so Louisiana was also controlled by Democrats at the time. Katrina was such a failure at the state and local levels that George W. Bush, when he flew over in his helicopter, he realized there's not much we can do right now except hope that we can pump out the water. Okay, it looked bad at the time for W to fly over in that helicopter, but there was not much they could do because state politicians refused to use the funding that was given to them to strengthen the levees. And then the mayor of New Orleans, instead of saying, hey, we've got all these school buses and we've got about 24 hours for this hurricane hits, let's use our own resources and bus people out of here if they choose to use this service. Instead, they took the buses to higher ground, and well, the buses stayed nice and dry when those levees broke, but the people of New Orleans were underwater. That's bad government in a nutshell. And so, in the case of these Los Angeles wildfires, bad government at the state level passing legislation that refuses to clean up their underbrush, and then, because of those issues, they then thought, well, costs of insurance are rising, so we're going to try and dabble around with that. And it got so bad that insurers just decided to say, nope, we're done with this nonsense, we're leaving. Okay? That's bad government. And so when Scott Jennings and even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is saying if we consider a package to help out California, we might need some stipulations on how you use that money. Because not only have they proven that they are bad at basic governing out in California, it's a little bit worse. As it turns out, California is just infamous when it comes not only to wasting money, but to laundering, hiding, and using money for graft and fraud. It is sort of the fraud, it's sort of the graft capital of the United States. It's one of our more corrupt states, outside of Illinois and arguably New York. Funny. Also run by Democrats. This is why I say time and time again that Democrats can't govern. And I'm not saying that to shame Democrats. I'm simply looking at the body of work. I am looking at these heavy hitter states. You know, the states that say that, oh, we subsidize you red states. I don't want to live in California. I'm not even wanting to vacation there anymore. That's the state with Yosemite, Lassen Volcanic, giant redwoods, sequoia groves. It's got Death Valley and these striking mountain vistas. It's got those beautiful ocean views over in Malibu. Granted, they'd probably be a bit charred right now. But a state with that much grandeur and with much natural wealth. It's got oil. It's got that beautiful breadbasket that is the Central Valley. This should be one of the shining cities and examples to the world of how you govern things well and how you don't screw up when you have been given a bounty of good natural resources, and instead it has become a litigious nightmare that even insurers are saying, we're done. So yeah, I don't blame Mike Johnson for thinking for 1 second that maybe if we give money to California, there's going to be some strings attached. Because we know you're corrupt, we know your policies are really, really dumb, and furthermore, we have seen your body of work and even the insurance are saying nope. Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of strings attached to this money. And the pearl clutchers at CNN are just crying a river. Maybe if you cried that much, there'd be water in Los Angeles fire hydrants. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.